Welcome to Crosstalk Solutions. My name's Chris, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new Ubiquiti Generation 2 Cloud Key Plus. Now, this is one of two of the new generations of Cloud Key. This is the one that has an onboard hard drive and also has UniFi Protect built in, which is the sort of new version of UniFi Video. We'll talk about all of that in a little bit, but first let me bring the camera in. We're going to unbox this thing and see what comes inside this box. It's actually a little bit heavier than I imagined it would be. Okay, so here we have the Gen 2 Cloud Key Plus. Let's go ahead and pop this thing open. All right. Beautiful packaging as usual. So right here we have probably a quick start guide, I would imagine. Gen 2 Cloud Key Plus, powerful remote cloud management. Oh, look, we have stickers. Oh, these are window stickers. Oh, that's nice. So they give you some window stickers so you can tell people, hey, we got cameras on this property. Don't mess with us. Here is the Gen 2 Cloud Key Plus. There's a little tab that we can pull on to get it out of here. And it comes wrapped in this little plastic sleeve. So let's go ahead and take that off. All right, and there we go. So this is the Gen 2 Cloud Key Plus. This features a 2 gigahertz octa-core CPU, 3 gigs of RAM, and it has a 1 terabyte hard drive. I believe there's a hard drive release. Yep, right there. Let's see if we can get the hard drive out. Oop, there we go. That does not want to move easily, but it also pops right out. So there's the hard drive, Toshiba brand, and it's a 1 terabyte hard drive by default. It says you can upgrade to a 5 terabyte hard drive. All right, let's pop this thing back in. Okay, so on the front we have a little display screen. I'll plug this thing in and get that powered up. On the back we have a USB-C for power. We have a power button. We have a 1 gig Ethernet port. This is also PoE, so this can be powered by Power over Ethernet, 802.3 AF PoE, or it can be powered by 9 volt 3 amp USB-C power. From what I understand, you can actually plug both of them in, and the USB-C will function as a backup power in case the Power over Ethernet ever goes out for any reason. There's also another USB-C port over here. However, this one is reserved for future use. It's not currently something that can be used. On this side, we have a Kensington lock port. And then on the bottom, we have a Cloud Key rack link port, as well as that hard drive release that I showed earlier. Now, there is a rack mount option for this Cloud Key. That rack mount option is still early access, so it's not quite available yet, but basically allows you to mount this into a 1U sort of fascia that fits into a 19-inch standard rack. All right, let's go ahead and power this thing on. I'm plugging this in with 802.3 AF PoE. There we go. So blinking light on top means that it's booting up. When this is ready to adopt or ready to be configured, this will turn into a solid white light. And then when it is actually configured, it will be a solid blue light. And now our light is solid white. And we can see a little progress bar beneath the Ubiquiti logo that is indicating we're about halfway done here. This is not touchscreen, by the way. This is informational only. Now, you can configure this device by bringing up a browser and browsing to the IP address that's displayed on the screen, or you can use the Bluetooth, integrated Bluetooth to set it up with your phone and the UniFi SDN application. So let's go ahead and try that and see what we can come up with. Okay, so I've moved the Cloud Key over to my main network. It now has an IP address of 192.168.200.150. And there's two ways to configure this Cloud Key. You can do it through Bluetooth with the UniFi SDN application, or you can do it with browsers like Google Chrome. So we're going to start with Bluetooth using the UniFi SDN app. I have it up here. We're going to click Add Controller, and it says found one controller already. There we go. Verifying capabilities, authenticating, connected, boom, done. So super, super simple to do it over Bluetooth. Let's call this UCK G2 Plus. Country United States, time zone Los Angeles, that's all good. We're going to click Next. And now we have the option of enabling or disabling cloud access. Now there are advantages and disadvantages to both. The advantage to enabling cloud access, which basically allows you to use a single sign-on account through Ubiquiti, and connects to your cloud key anywhere in the world, the advantage is that you can connect to it anywhere in the world. The disadvantage is that you're now accessing the cloud key through the internet, right? So you're opening up potentially a security risk. If you turn off the cloud access, your cloud key is local only. So it's much more secure, much more private, but again, you don't have the flexibility of enabling it to the rest of the world, where if you're at home, you can make changes to the UniFi configuration, or view your protect cameras or whatever. So we're going to go ahead and turn that on in our case to enable cloud access, and I'm going to say next. And now it would adopt devices. So if I had any devices in the layer 2 network that were pending adoption, they would show up in this screen. I don't currently, so we're going to say finish. And there we go, setup complete. So super simple, and that's actually a lot better than the way it used to be set up with the Generation 1 cloud key. So I'm real happy about that. We're going to say done. And there we go. My UCK G2 Plus shows up in my UniFi SDN app. We're going to click on it. Connecting, trying direct access. It should be able to directly connect. Trust server, you're going to say trust, and connected. There we go. So now I'm connected to my cloud key. All right, but let's go ahead and do the same thing. Stop the screen recording. Let's do the same thing, though, over the browser. So here I am at the desktop. I'm going to bring up my SDN, and let's click on Manage Cloud Key. Now, since I connected this with my Ubiquiti single sign-on account, it's going to be my single sign-on login information in order to access it. And what we can see here is the name, the model. The internet says that it is connected. We've got our gateway, our DNS, settings, and here's that processor, Qualcomm 64-bit 8-core with 3 gigs of RAM. Now we can configure the Cloud Key G2 Plus, or from here we can go into the UniFi SDN, which looks like it needs an upgrade. So it comes with 5.8.30 installed, and then we can upgrade to the latest, which is 5.9.29, and then we can also go into UniFi Protect. Let's hold off on those for a second. We're going to click Configure on the Cloud Key itself and see what our options are. So we have the name, time zone. You can set it DHCP or static. I'm going to leave mine DHCP for now. Cloud Key update available. So we have 0.7.7 firmware that came with it. I can upgrade it to 0.8.7. Let's go ahead and upgrade. Yep. All right, there we go. It just finished updating, and there's actually a new splash page here, which is interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead and sign in again. That's, by the way, the update of the Cloud Key firmware took about 4 minutes total by the time it downloaded, installed, and then rebooted. So let's go ahead and log in again. All right, and now, yeah, look at this. Now it looks totally different. They really changed everything from the 0.7 to the 0.8 firmware. All right, UniFi Internet is connected. SDN is active. UniFi Protect is active. Let's click on Performance. CPU load is good. CPU temp is 39 degrees. Memory, I'm assuming that's Celsius. Memory is 1.21 gigs out of 2.91 gigs used. Nothing used on the hard drive, and nothing used on the eMCC, or very little used on the eMCC drive. Excuse me, eMMC, which I assume is the onboard, sort of where the operating system runs. The terabyte hard drive, I imagine, is for UniFi Protect videos, whereas the eMMC drive is for the actual operating system and the firmware of the SDN, the Cloud Key, and Protect itself. All right, if we click on controllers, we can open SDN or we can open UniFi Protect. If we click on network, now we have advanced configuration. This is where we can now set it static versus DHCP if we wanted to do that. We can also see the data. And then if we click on settings, there's the name. Let's look at the hardware. Enable or disable the reset button. That's an interesting option. There's a reset button or a power button on the back of the device. I imagine this basically, if you turn this off, it helps prevent from accidentally hitting the button. And then we can factory reset, power off, or reboot. If we look at firmware, we can see that we are currently up to date with the latest version, which is 0.8.7. All right, let's go back to controllers, and let's go ahead and pop into the UniFi SDN. As a matter of fact, I'm going to import my home UniFi site from my cloud controller over to the Cloud Key, and then I'll come back once that's done. It's been a few days since that last part of the video because I had a problem importing from my old UniFi controller to my new UniFi controller. I didn't want to import the entire thing. I just wanted my own personal UniFi site, which is, this equipment over here, my USG and my 24-port PoE switch and all that sort of good stuff. I only wanted that site imported onto this cloud key so that I could leave all of the rest of my production customers alone. The problem was my production UniFi controller was running UniFi version 5.7. something. I don't remember the exact firmware that it was running, but I was unable to export from 5.7 and import into 5.9.29. It wouldn't let me do it. So I had to first upgrade my production UniFi controller to 5.9.29, which thankfully went mostly okay. I did have to travel on site to one of my customers whose access points did not upgrade properly, but beyond that, everything went perfectly fine. Oh, there was one other issue. It wasn't showing up in unifi.ubnt.com properly after the upgrade, so I had to disassociate it and then re-enable the cloud access with my single sign-on account with Ubiquiti, and then that problem went away as well. So my production controller was now on 5.9.29. I was able to export my site and then import it onto this cloud key. In the meantime, there was also a new firmware update that came out for the cloud key. So I had originally updated to version 0.8.7, and they subsequently released version 0.8.10. Interesting thing about this upgrade is that it did not work through the GUI interface. So if you come over here to settings, and then you click on firmware, there's two buttons here. So right now there's only one button because I am completely up to date. But if you are not up to date, this will be yellow, and it will tell you the latest version, and it'll say update automatically or update manually. When I clicked the update automatically button, it did not work. It didn't really give any sort of error other than just saying that it didn't work. I even tried rebooting and then trying the automatic update again. It still did not work. So then I tried the manual update. When you click on update manually, you're given the option to provide a URL to download the firmware file, or you can upload the file from your local system. So I tried to provide a URL based on what the URL that I copied out of the blog post that was talking about the 0.8.10 firmware update. That also did not work. So if you take a look at the UniFi blog and you scroll down, there are 3 different ways that you can update. So you can do the automatic, check for updates, you can do the manual, and then finally you can update via SSH, where you have to SSH into the Gen2 cloud key. And then you can do ubnt-systool fw update and then provide the URL of the firmware that you want to update to. That worked for me. Okay, so when I did the SSH command, I was able to successfully update my cloud key to version 0.8.10, but man, it was a little bit of a hassle, and I have not seen that happen before. Hopefully that automatic update stuff gets resolved, and let me know if you guys are seeing the same sort of problem if you try to update to 0.8.10. Okay, so after the update, if we look at our overview, we are on 0.8.10, that's the cloud key firmware. If we look at our controllers, the SDN is still 5.9.29, and UniFi Protect is 1.4.2. Taking a look at the performance tab, now that I have 3 cameras on this system, as well as one UniFi site with about a half a dozen devices or so, we can see our CPU load is at 6%, CPU temperature is still 39 degrees, memory is at 38%, storage 1, this is the Protect hard drive is at 14%, and then we've got the regular eMMC drive at 1% utilized. This, by the way, the storage 1 is 14% utilized. That's 2 cameras running on UniFi Protect over the course of about 4 days. So take that for what you will. That's about 14%. Of course, that's anecdotal given the amount of motion that's happening on the cameras that I'm using and that sort of stuff. But there you have it, 14% after about 4 days. If we click on SDN, there we go. Everything is connected perfectly. Everything's working great, and it has been working great for 4 days now since I ran the import. We also have UniFi Protect. Now, I am not going to go too in-depth into UniFi Protect in this video. I'm going to do a separate standalone video specifically on UniFi Protect. So if there's anything that you guys want to see in UniFi Protect, let me know down in the comments below, and I will be sure to include those items or answer any questions in that next video. But let's go ahead, and here's my cameras. We can see I've got one dome camera, I've got one G3 micro, and let's go ahead and see if we can add one more camera, because I do have a G3 Flex. There we go, right there. So I just clicked it. G3 Flex was already plugged in. We're going to add that selected camera. and it is adopting that camera now, updating the firmware, it looks like. Okay, there we go. The G3 Flex has now been added. Let's go ahead and see if we can click on it, and we can see the live view. And of course, as I'm trying to show you the live view of UniFi Protect, it is not working. These cameras are not loading into the live view. And I don't know if that's because I've got this hooked up through a couple of different switches or what the actual problem is, but I'm not going to worry about it too much now. We're going to cover Protect in that other video, and hopefully I will sort out these sorts of little issues in the meantime. However, now let's go ahead and switch over to show you a little bit more about the USB-C power and some of the other environmental variables about this device itself. Okay, so I've had this Cloud Key running for a little while. It's been plugged in. It's actually not too hot. Let's take a temperature reading. Right now it is reading 89.6 degrees Fahrenheit. I have seen it up to as much as 98 degrees Fahrenheit. So it actually it doesn't run too hot, not like some of the switches and the USG, that sort of stuff. So that's good. As far as the front panel display, there's 3 different panels that this scrolls through. There's a main status, which shows you the IP address of the device. It shows you whether or not it has internet connectivity, and it shows you whether or not the Bluetooth is enabled or disabled. The second panel relates to the SDN. It shows you the IP address of UniFi SDN. It shows you how many clients are currently connected, as well as how many access points are currently connected. And then finally, there's a third panel that shows you information about UniFi Protect, and that shows you how many cameras are connected, as well as the last time that motion was detected. Now let's talk a little bit more about how to power this device. Certainly, power over Ethernet is the preferred method that delivers PoE as well as network connectivity to the device. However, it does have a USB Type-C connector as well for power, and that says QC 2.0. Okay, so that means Quick Charge 2.0. Now, they don't really make Quick Charge 2.0 devices anymore. Mostly everything is Quick Charge 3.0. However, from my research, Quick Charge 3.0 devices are typically backwards compatible with Quick Charge 2.0, so any 3.0 device that you get, Quick Charge 3.0 device that you get, should work fine with this Cloud Key. If you plug a USB Type-C connector that does not provide sufficient power into this device, it will say on the front display, bad USB-C power. Now, I tried just a straight up like iPhone USB dongle with a USB Type-C connector or cable plugged into it. That gave me bad USB Type-C power. I even tried the switchable USB Type-C power supply that came with my Nintendo Switch. That one also did not work, even though it's much more powerful than what you're going to charge an iPhone or a tablet with. That did not work as well. And so I had to actually buy a Quick Charge 3.0 charger. And the one that I got here was from Anker, A-N-K-E-R. I will put a link to this down in the description below. This was $13.99 on Amazon, and then I just used a spare USB-C cable. I believe this came from my GoPro, and I was able to plug this in, and it works fine. Now, if you plug in only USB Type-C power, you will get a message on the screen. It'll boot up fine, but you'll get a message on the screen that says Ethernet disconnected. Same thing if you take the power over Ethernet and simply unplug it. After a few moments, you will get power disconnected. So as I was doing that test, this actually, I plugged in the USB Type-C with the Quick Charge 3.0 charger, and then I unplugged the PoE, and it actually, normally, I've done testing on this already, it would normally go to Ethernet disconnected, which is what it says right now. Instead, when I just unplugged that, it went to PoE disconnected, shutting down in, and then it gives you a 7-second timer and then shuts down the Cloud Key. After it shut down, it came right back up and said bad USB-C power, even though I was plugged into the Quick Charge 3.0 plug. So I unplugged the Quick Charge 3.0 plug and I replugged it back in, and now it did not give me bad USB-C power. The power is sufficient. However, it now says Ethernet disconnected. Okay, so there is some funky stuff going on, and so what I would recommend is if you're going to use USB Type-C power as a backup to power over Ethernet, make sure you plug this power in first and then plug in your PoE. Now it says configuring network, and it'll come up with its IP address normally. And now let's see what happens when I unplug the PoE. There we go. So now it says Ethernet disconnected. Okay, so for some reason, when you have or at least in my experience, it seems when you plug in the PoE first and then plug in USB power second, it doesn't seem to work as well. But it does prove the point that if you have plugged everything in properly to begin with, and you unplug PoE, it does not go through the shutdown process. It just says Ethernet disconnected, and it will stay powered up by the USB Type-C Quick Charge 2.0 cable. Okay, let's plug power back in. Now I'm going to unplug USB Type-C, get rid of this. And then what you can see here, and this is probably one of the main benefits of going to the Gen 2 Cloud Key over the Gen 1 Cloud Key, and that is that there is a battery on board that will gracefully shut down this device if power does get disconnected. One of the biggest problems with the Generation 1 Cloud Key is if power was yanked from that thing. For instance, if you didn't have your PoE switch on a battery backup and there was a power outage or something like that, it had a tendency to corrupt the Mongo database on the Gen 1 Cloud Key and could just wipe it out. I can't tell you how many times we had to deal with that problem. So now we don't have that problem anymore. If I simply unplug the PoE, I get a message on the screen, power disconnected, shutting down in 7, 6, and then it gives a countdown, and then it will shut down the device. But that is beautiful because this does a graceful shutdown, and I have tested with this thing a lot, and I have yet to hose it, okay? So far, I've pulled the plug on this thing easily a dozen times, and it's always come right back up, no problem. Shutting down, and it just went off. Okay, while this thing's shut down, let's take a closer look at the hard drive that comes with it. I popped this out once before, so by the way, this little thing on the bottom here that pops out the hard drive, I have not been able to do it with my fingers, okay? I have always had to use a flathead screwdriver, and of course try not to, shiv myself while I'm doing it, but it comes out relatively easily when you do a flathead screwdriver, but I cannot do it with my hand, so it's not really like a thumb switch or something like that, unless maybe you have really powerful hands, which apparently I don't. Okay, so the drive that comes inside this device is the Toshiba MQ01ABD100V. It's a 1 terabyte Toshiba 2.5 inch drive. This hard drive on Amazon is $46.50. Okay, so the first thing that I would say about this is if you are going to buy a Gen 2 Cloud Key, currently the non-protect version, so this is the Cloud Key Gen 2 Plus. The Cloud Key Gen 2 non-plus version, which doesn't have UniFi Protect, it doesn't have this extra hard drive, is $179 on the Ubiquiti store. The Plus model is $20 more, okay, so it's $199. That makes, in my opinion, getting the Plus a no-brainer, okay, because just the cost of the 1 terabyte hard drive that's inside of this unit is $46 on Amazon, okay, so it makes a big difference, and I'm sure Ubiquiti's profit margins are actually a lot smaller on this because of that, but that's the price for now. However, if you try to buy this Gen 2 Cloud Key Plus, I keep saying Gen 2 Cloud Key Plus, it's Cloud Key Gen 2 Plus. If you buy the Cloud Key Gen 2 Plus on Amazon right now, it's $299. Okay, so I would suggest buying it in the Ubiquiti store now for $199, just in case they release it widely to all their distributors, including Amazon, and the price goes up. So it's a really, really good value for now. If you want to upgrade this drive to a 5 terabyte drive, it's going to cost about $143. So I found a Seagate 5 terabyte Barracuda in the 2.5 inch form factor. There's plenty of extra space in here. There's about an extra 3 or 4 millimeters that you can get a hard drive into this little hard drive cage, so it will handle a thicker drive. So you can absolutely put the 5 terabyte drive into this. I will put a link down below to the one that I would buy if I were going to be upgrading. And again, the 5 terabyte upgrade was $143.40 for that drive. This one, however, I'm just going to slap right back in here. Okay, so there you have it. There is the Cloud Key Gen 2 Plus from Ubiquiti Networks. What do you guys think about this device? I am actually pretty impressed with it. So in my testing, it's been relatively bulletproof. I have not been able to screw it up. I have had a few issues with UniFi Protect. I feel that that might just be a Protect thing though. Maybe Protect isn't quite up to snuff yet. But other than that, it has been really solid, and moving forward, I will only be recommending the Gen 2 cloud keys to my customers that want cloud keys, specifically because of the battery that's inside, that when you plug the power, it does a graceful shutdown. That's worth the extra money for the Gen 2 cloud keys right there. And then if you're going to get a Gen 2 cloud key, again, pay the extra $20 to get the one that has the hard drive. It gives you the option to go with Protect, even if you don't actually have any Ubiquiti cameras that you're going to be connecting to it. You will at least have that option. Or if nothing else, you could pop it out and you've got a $40 1 terabyte hard drive sitting in there. Okay, so there you go. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more on this device, or if you have any questions about it, put those down in the comments below, and perhaps I will do a follow-up. I will certainly be doing a follow-up on UniFi Protect. My name's Chris with Crosstalk Solutions, and thank you so much for watching.